Hi there, welcome to our latest bonus chat. This was recorded as part of our England v Ireland wrap pod. If you missed it, be sure to check it out on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. This week, we'd like to have a look at the other big matches from the weekend's rugby, but with particular attention to the match in Cardiff, given it involved our remaining two opponents in this year's Six Nations. It was a curious match. Wales improved on last week, yet still lost, while the Scots regressed from their Calcutta Cup triumph, yet still won. They now stand between us and at very least a possible triple crown, Hugo. How are they looking?
Yeah, I mean, so it is a weird one, as you say, in that if you're a Welsh fan, you're probably pleased despite the win, and if you're a Scottish fan, you're probably disappointed despite the loss. This is the best Wales have played in this tournament by quite a long way. It's the only game they've really been competitive in, and frankly, it's a game they should have won. I think they were 20 points to five up with 20 minutes to go. And some really impressive individual performances in there. I thought Eddie James, the young Scottish centre, had a really, really impressive game. Carrying a lot over the gain line, really important to how Wales were able to get their attack going. I think Thomas Williams, and I've said this before, but I think he's incredibly unlucky to be a part of this Wales team because I think he's a legitimately excellent scrum half. And I think in a better team, I think he would be a kind of much more renowned player. Um, but also the pack and the Welsh pack has not been a particular area of strength in recent years. But I thought the pack had a pretty good game. I thought Daft Jenkins in the second row, the former captain, I thought he had a very impressive performance. I thought Mann in the back row had a very good game. And Dowie Lake, who is their captain, and is it's not easy to be a leader of this team when it's going through so much. But I thought he had another very kind of effective performance. Um, and this was one they should have won, and they put themselves in a position to do so. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get it over the line, in part because Scotland finally woke up in that final quarter. But Scotland were abysmally bad in the first half. It really is, one of the concerns a lot of Scotland fans have about this team is their inability to follow up one good performance with another. They were excellent against England last week and deserved big winners. It just seemed like they kind of weren't off the team bus until about half time. And Wales were much the better side in that first half. It was only really in the second half when, well, Finn Russell kind of remembered that he was Finn Russell really and started doing Finn Russell things that things really start to turn around, and he was very important to their turnaround. Really smart kick. To send Darcy Graham through off the restart for a try, an incredibly frustrating try for Wales to give away, an incredibly soft try, and ultimately one that ended up costing them the game. Um, so, Scotland go marching on. They were actually top of the table before France's game today. They are still, in theory, in with a shot of winning this tournament. They're not going to win it playing like that. And certainly, on the basis of Ireland's performance this weekend and Scotland's performance this weekend, Ireland would certainly expect to beat Scotland if they play like that in Dublin. Ireland Wales next week. Again, you would expect Ireland to win that game as you would have at the outset of the tournament. But it is a kind of a step in the right direction for Wales. And my slight concern as an Ireland fan is once again this is kind of coming at the wrong time for the game against us. Wales enjoyed something of a kind of new coach bounce halfway through the Six Nations last year, just in time to play us. We beat them, but it was kind of a nervier game than probably we'd been expecting going in. And I do expect, Wales will not look to make it easy. It does look like they're kind of starting to settle in a little bit after what's been a really tough, well, few weeks, few years for Wales in the Six Nations. Um, but ultimately, I think it was reflective of a team that, while it is maybe making progress, still has a lot of holes, still has a lot of issues when it comes to the bench. And I would expect Ireland to win that game relatively comfortably, provided we play remotely as well as we did at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is what concerned me going into this competition. I said it on the main pod as well. It's like the way the tournament is set up this week. We've only got the one off week, as opposed to the usual two. And the way Ireland's fixtures panned out was we had the two difficult away games before that break. So I envisaged a situation where we would have lost two games going into that break. So we'd have 2 weeks, and you know what the media is like, day in, day out, there'd be coverage, what's wrong with Ireland, blah, 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 what Ireland needs to do, would have been all this kind of stuff. And to mentally prepare ourselves for those final two matches. I mean, to have your last two games at home is an advantage, but I was afraid that we'd be so knocked back by the two defeats. Now, things happen, things didn't go great in Paris, but that amazing performance in Twickenham has sort of given us a different challenge, as it were. We'd want to play Wales next week. That would be ideal, but of course it's not. We've got to sort of take that form and keep it there for the 2 weeks. But we also have to look at the greater squad as well and make selection choices and stuff based on sort of maybe even resting players, even with the rest week. You do want to manage the squad that way, but we do have to look at it. I mean, I hate to put it in words, but after that display in Twickenham, we've got to be looking for 10 points from those two games to maximize our results from the last couple of games. So we should be going for that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, look, with where Wales are now, 5 points has to be the expectation. I think Scotland, if Scotland are at their best, that's a potentially tougher game in that final week, but they've not been at their best against us for quite a long time. And again, without trying to sound overconfident or to kind of summon the mocker gods, I think the reality is where Ireland are now in this tournament. If we are to hold on to the most unlikely chances of still winning this thing, we do have to hope for 10 points from 10. Obviously, Wales and Scotland will have something to say about that, but the expectation should be at this stage that Ireland at least win the Triple Crown, and at least put ourselves in the best position of winning the tournament overall should France slip up somewhere, which does seem unlikely, it has to be said at this stage.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Well, let's take that opportunity to move on and look at France, who played. We're recording on Sunday evening, and just this afternoon they played in Lille. It's the second time they played Italy in Lille. It's like they move it even further away from Italy than Paris to make it difficult for the Italian fans to get there. You think somewhere like Marseille would make more sense, but listen, there was a they got the win eventually. It wasn't an absolute thrashing, but Italy did struggle to score. It was a 33-8. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was an interesting one in that I actually think that, a 33-8 scoreline suggests that France dominated the game, which is not what happened at all. Actually, it was a pretty even game in many respects. And one where the French pack actually probably ended up on the kind of, not having the upper hand. Italy were able to control the game for large stretches. They spent a lot of time on the ball in the French half. But the difference between these two teams is that Italy are still at the stage, and we saw it a bit last week against us, where maybe they didn't take chances they could have and should have. And they still have yet to put too many points on the board in any of their games, including the one they won against Scotland. They're not yet the most incisive attacking side, and so when they had those chances, they couldn't take them. Actually, the only try they scored against France today was a very kind of lucky one where the ball trickled out the back of a ruck, and Capuazzo was able to dive over it to score. Whereas France are the opposite. If you give France anything, they will score from it. And exemplified by something that happened in the first half, where after a stretch where Italy had actually controlled the game pretty well, had been kind of in the ascendancy, they had a line out just outside France's 22, an overthrown line out that ends up in French hands. And 10 seconds later, Thomas Ramos is scoring in the far corner. Um, it's France are one of the most effective attacking transition sides I've ever seen at the moment. It helps that they have players like Louis Bielbiere, who scored another try today. Just you kick it through and then he's so quick. There's a pretty decent chance he's going to get there before anyone else. But and it's another bonus point win. I think France are going to win this tournament by streets. I think they're going to beat Scotland. I think they're going to beat England in the remaining games. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did that with a full complement of points. And if they do that, they'll absolutely deserve this. They're great fun to watch. But I think this game did show the template of how you beat them. Their pack is not incredibly impressive at the moment, and we weren't able to take advantage of that, but Italy were. Italy had them on toast at the scrum, and generally were able to kind of control that a little bit more. And if you can deny them transition ball to work off of, actually don't really create that much elsewhere. Obviously, that's easier said than done to deny them transition ball, and they're so effective at that is that you give them anything, and as we've seen, they'll score. But I think, they're not invulnerable. I think it just might take better teams than any of the other Six Nations sides at the moment to really exploit that. So, another ultimately impressive win for France, even if the scoreboard probably put a bit of a gloss on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look back through the years at any Grand Slam achievements, definitely Ireland's, but I'd say any team really, it was never 400 minutes of perfect rugby throughout the competition. And there's sort of peaks and troughs, whatever. It's just being able to consistently get 5 wins. But like you say, the French are just so impressive at punishing mistakes. And by mistakes, I don't even mean dropping the ball. You just mean a high ball that just goes a little too far. That's a mistake that the French can turn into a score. So you just have to be absolutely perfect throughout. And like you say, you can't see their remaining opponents doing that over the next couple of games. So and Italy as well. Yeah, they're just short of getting up that table. I mean, this could be. I actually looked it up, and this would be if they stay off the bottom this year, it'll be 3 years in a row not doing it. That's even not the first time they've done it. I looked that up, and they actually did it before in the 2010s. But still, it is a great achievement for them to be in that kind of conversation where they're kind of moving up. It's a tough competition to move up, but they are doing it, and they're just missing their players at certain times. We were sort of lucky in a way that they didn't have the likes of Brex and Capozzo when we played them, but they're back now. If they could have gotten them together, had their full squad fit, or maybe even had a deeper squad overall, they can improve. But overall, it's the standard of rugby they're playing, and we see good performance in their under 20s as well. So there's players coming through as well. So they do impress there. And speaking of under 20s, look, I did a good segue. We're going to look at our third and final match. There was a great game to kick off the weekend. I love these under 20 matches, even win or lose. Anyway, I always look forward to them the weekend. They really make a Six Nations weekend. The under 20s on the Friday night, and this was an incredible performance. Ireland winning in Bath against England.
Yeah, and I also really enjoy the under 20s. It's really good fun seeing the kind of the players coming through, and obviously Ireland's under 20s Six Nations last year was maybe one to forget, but it's been much better this time out. And but I mean, in a way, it's really interesting how much the under 20s campaign has kind of mirrored the senior men's campaign. A thrashing by France on the opening weekend, a kind of a nervy win over Italy in the second one, and then an unexpectedly large bonus point win away to England. And it was a really impressive performance, particularly kind of it was kind of close enough in the first half, but second half Ireland just came out and just looked the smarter team, looked the more effective team, and actually in some ways the final scoreline flattered England a little bit the way the game had gone. And there's a couple of players in this Ireland team. Not everyone who plays at underage level is going to make the jump up to the senior level, and not everyone who impresses on underage level is necessarily going to impress it at senior level. But I think two real standout players from this campaign so far, Josh Neal, the South African schoolboy who signed an academy contract with Leinster, and who's been something of a standout for Ireland in this tournament so far. Really impressive back rower and a phenomenal performance against England on Friday. And then Tom Wood, the 19-year-old Munster fly half, who also had another really impressive game. So you know, the kind of a healthy underage environment is always really important, for a kind of future success. It's an area where actually Ireland have done quite well in recent years. We're not necessarily able to compete in terms of kind of size of player pool with the likes of England and France. So getting these results over England, at least, I think is really positive. And it was a really good performance. And I encourage people to go and watch the highlights of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was like 1 to 23. Yeah, I mean, you're right about Josh Neal. I mean, it's like it's guys that we have a Josh number 7 coming through. That is actually from South Africa, but that looks like he could do well for Leinster and Ireland as well. It's great that he's declared for us, and Tom Wood as well. But it was like right through the squad. It was a team performance from start to finish. Like the English had a nudge in the scrum as well, a bit like the seniors did at Twickenham, but we were able to negate that and sort of excel in other areas, defense and good attacking moves and all that kind of stuff, and just basically dominated the game. By the end, it was like you say, it could have been more. Things gone a different way, but listen, it was a great performance, great start to the weekend. Great that the seniors backed it up with the win. So long may it continue. After, like you say, we sort of gotten used to Grand Slams and championships, but then last year kind of went exactly in the opposite direction. It's good. It's good to have it back, and it's good for the program. Okay, listen, Hugo, many thanks for that. And if you, the viewer, have any thoughts on the rugby from the weekend, or indeed anything you'd like us to harp on in the future, please leave your comments below. And while you're at it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe as well.